Lovely, lovely friend, Alyse Shine is here with me today. We're going to be talking about energy healing and why choose it. So, if you do have questions, feel free to ask. This is totally interactive. And okay, so I think we're good. I think we are good. Okay. All right. So hello and welcome. Welcome on Facebook and YouTube. And so for anyone joining, if you have questions, feel free to ask. I'm sure you might have some as we're kind of talking through here, but we're talking about why choose energy healing. And I wanted to, good morning, Christina. So I did want to talk about our own experiences, Alyse, whether they're ourselves or even with our clients that we work on. And we'll kind of get into some of the things that we've learned too through energy healing and maybe even perhaps why it works. So if you're curious about that too, we'll get into that. And then we'll also talk about the future of energy medicine. So, so I wanted to ask you, Alyse, what got you into energy work or thinking about doing Reiki or any other type of energy healing modality? What kind of brought your interest into that, or perhaps even what was your first experience?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
My first experience was actually my sister. My younger sister became a Reiki master in her 20s, I'd say. And I just thought it was fascinating. And she had worked on me a couple of times. And I was like, wow, I don't know what this is, but it's really cool. And then I guess fast forward to massage school when I went back to massage school when I was 39. So it was a little later in life. And we did a polarity energy. I forget what they called it. Doesn't matter. But it was an energy palpation, they called it. So we were learning how to feel the energy and to work with it.
Nice.
And then I continued on and took Reiki 1 and 2 actually with one teacher. And then I redid Reiki 1 with another teacher. So, but I always felt it coming through. And I remember the first time I was working on my first Reiki teacher, she was like, "You're already doing Reiki." And I was like, "How am I doing Reiki?" But I found out then once you receive it, you are basically attuned to it and you can do it. And I didn't realize it was coming out of me. And
Mm-hmm.
then I just
Yeah.
when I started doing massage, I started really being able to feel the different nuances of energy and working and manipulating them. And just, I'm fascinated with all things energy, as you know.
Is there any particular experience that stood out to you where you were just like, wow, either I really benefited from that or my client really, like anything that stands out to you in terms of that?
So many.
I know, it's kind
I
of hard
would
to
say
pick.
the most potent thing for me is working with animals because you take the placebo out of the equation. Mm, uh,
It's good.
yeah. When you
Mhm.
see an animal responding to energy healing, they didn't know what you're doing. There's no, possible influence of their consciousness. So I feel like that really helped to validate for me that it is something and it's working, and it's not just me feeling it or somebody assuming that it's going to work by taking somewhat of a sugar pill type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of clients, I tell people, they ask me what to expect for the first time. I said, expect everything from feeling absolutely nothing to seeing colors and having emotional responses. I was just doing another interview with someone where I remembered this one client, and she was in a crisis mode in her life anyway, with both with physical medical stuff and personally. And she had what I would call a healing crisis. And she just was completely freaked out by her response and was crying, and she had a very emotional response. But that's not common. That's really on the, high end of the spectrum of what to expect, way
Mhm.
outside of the bell curve.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's I find it fascinating because it's like looking back at all the different experiences that I've had. And I'm glad that my second teacher that I had told me to journal my experiences, like the things that I picked up on and what happened to my clients, because I could look back and see like there's really something happening, right? This, you cannot make this stuff up. Like energy healing is really, for the skeptics too, it's really more of an experience. We're going to, here we're talking about it, right? But unless you've actually experienced it, whether it's Reiki or a different technique or modality, you can't say that it doesn't do anything. And so what's interesting is this book just came out by Dr. David Hamilton, Why Woo Woo Works. So shout out to Dr. David Hamilton because I love him. But he talks about study after study after study for all kinds of different things, from crystals to Reiki. He even talks about why journaling works. There's studies done on people who journal, so nature, being out in nature. So he goes through a whole bunch of different things. And Reiki, actually, what I found out from his book, is one of the most clinically studied energy healing techniques. That's, most people have heard of it at some point, and it's even used in hospitals.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, the teaching hospitals use it because there's clinical evidence to show that it works, and it's not just a placebo thing. There's actually something that's happening. Exactly. And so I know for me, the first time that I ever had any type of energy healing work done, I was starting to flare with eczema, like either eczema, psoriasis. It was kind of like bordering between the two. And I had 3 nights or such just really crappy sleep just because of itching was so bad. And it was interesting because at this time I had signed up for my first Reiki class, but hadn't taken it yet. And it was on a Sunday, like who's open on a Sunday? I contacted this one Reiki healer and she's like, well, I can do a distance session in 30 minutes. She's like, I just need to prepare. And so she's like, just lay down. Like, I was like, what do we do? Do I need to be on the phone? I was like all nervous. And she was like, no, she's like, just lay down and you can call me after 30 minutes is over. And so I'm sitting there in my bed, and this really just profound sensation came over my head and my shoulders, where it was like, lay down, you're sitting up. She told you to lay down. and so I found myself kind of sliding down in my bed like this. And then I laid there, and then it was so crazy. I felt warmth over my arms, where at the time I had this big old spot on the inside of my elbow. It was like red and inflamed and super itchy. I felt it over my arms first, and then just relaxation over my entire body, where I was so itchy to be like for days, like nothing was working at that point. The itchiness disappeared by the end of the 30 minutes. And so I talked with her afterwards, and she was like, oh yeah, she's like, that was really, really powerful. And I forgot what else she said. Within 2 days, that spot on my arm, you almost couldn't see it anymore.
Wow.
And I was just like, I'm so glad I signed up for this Reiki class, because I need to know what the hell happened here, because this feels so much better. And I was sold, like immediately. Like I already knew that there was something to it, because by that time I was meditating and I had healed stuff, even physically and emotionally, through meditation. But I had felt the urge to explore more with just energy work in general. And so it really fascinated me. And so after that, I was just like, I'm going to take this all the way.
That's awesome.
And see what happens. So, yeah, any other experiences that stand out to you, or any things that you have learned, any particular, whether it's a lesson or just something that you've learned about energy through working on yourself or others?
I think the coolest thing about energy is that you don't have to be in person. And that's something that people, again, have to experience before they really get it, because energy isn't an in-person thing. It's the same thing with my readings. You don't need to be in the room because energy is energy, and we can still pick up on energy and still work with energy. And quantum physics and science actually shows that and proves that. And I don't know if that's in his Why Woo Works book, but I'd love to read that. And I love that science is proving what we in this energy field have known for a really long time. So I feel like that's, especially with what happened last year and what's still going on, if people didn't feel comfortable being in person, we can still work with you, and we can be on the other side of the world and still affect some really wonderful changes.
I totally agree. I mean, just the fact that my very first Reiki session was distance, I was blown away. I was like, how? You know, but now, I mean, it's like, so one thing I'd recommend on Amazon, if you haven't seen it yet, watch, I believe it's called Superhuman.
Yes.
And it walks you through studies and stuff too, of people doing anything from remote viewing, which, by the way, the government, you know, does use psychic people. They teach,
and has since the 50s.
Yeah. So it's everything from remote viewing to changing. I forgot what it was that woman, I don't know if it was cells in a dish or something like that, but also distance wise, like she affected the vibration of something that was in this dish. And so all the studies there kind of really prove what people have been doing with Reiki and other healing modalities for so very long, right? And so there's more and more that is going to continue to come out, but a lot of it really is based in the quantum, which is kind of turns Newtonian physics on its head. Yep. So when you watch it, you'll be able to kind of see all these things in action, even telekinesis, which is the reason when I saw that, that's why I wanted to try my own telekinesis experiment. And dude, it totally works. So if you ever want to try it, don't ever think that you have to be like this quote unquote special person. Most of you are already employ little bits of healing, whether you recognize it or not. So don't think that you have to be like the super gifted individual. You can actually learn how to do some of the stuff yourself. And that's what's really cool, is that we each have this incredible power. I think that's one of the lessons that was really huge for me, is that we have this incredible power to heal ourselves and to also facilitate the healing of other individuals. Yeah. So yeah, any other lessons that stand out to you or that you can think of?
Again, so many. I'm trying to think of. You know what I really think is cool is I think the person with the dish was using some type of like a heart math. I'm trying to think of the guy's name who did the water experiment. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah. It starts with an M.
Yeah, I believe he was Japanese.
Yeah.
And he put ice crystals and spoke different words to different ice crystals and saw under a microscope how their crystalline structure changed depending on what they were told. And when we use words are actually frequency and vibration. So if you actually change, and you don't need a healer or a facilitator, you can do this yourself. If you're feeling like down, depressed, or anxious, if you just go to a memory or something that you love and you hold that thought and that image and that feeling in your body and your mind, you will actually start to shift the energy in your body. And I feel like that's such a profound thing to do because we're all so freaking stressed out. So if you can't, make an appointment with me or with Rosalyn or anybody else that does the energy healing, or in between sessions, do these things for yourself. Look up heart math. Heart math is a cool thing to really start to connect with love, which is the highest frequency in the universe. And if you hold that vibration in your heart, or you can even use a crystal to help you, you can do these energy healings on yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so I think I just did a post. Yeah, I did. I just did a post on one of the heart math techniques,
Oh,
which
cool.
is, their stuff is incredible, by the way.
Yeah.
If you ever read any of Heart Math's books, which talks about heart coherence, it actually, they go into details about, with clinical studies, by the way, with like the EEGs and all of that, EKGs, and checking blood pressure and heart rate. They check the variability of how the heart is beating. And when you actually use a mind and heart technique to bring those two together, you can calm your entire system down.
Yep.
And I have used it because for those of you who don't know, I mean, I'm a registered nurse and I do telephone triage. I've actually had people, I've walked them through the heart brain harmony technique, which takes like 2 minutes to do. And I have stopped panic attacks that way on the phone. And people have been able to use it afterwards. I'm like, just use this technique again anytime you get really anxious.
So that's energy healing too.
That's energy healing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's what you have to understand, that it's not necessarily just about like this ambivalent type of thing that the healer is doing. They're working with your particular energy, and your energy is made up of what you're thinking and what you're feeling at the time. And so with the example of Reiki, as it's described in this book, he talks about how we have mirror neurons, right? So it's the mirror neuron system where it causes emotional contagion, is what the two words that he used to describe it. So with the healer in the setting who's calm and who has this intent of lifting your vibrational frequency, the time that you're spending with that person will cause your cells to entrain to the healer who's vibrating at a higher frequency. So it's like, I know for myself, and I'm sure that you do something similar to Alyse, like I get into more of like a meditative state when I begin.
Mm-hmm.
And just allow the energy to flow through, because that's, as a Reiki practitioner, that's what we're taught to do, is we're using universal source energy, which comes from unconditional love, and it's flowing through the body, right? Through the hand, through the arms and hands. This is all through the heart chakra, right? Yep. Onto the recipient. So I thought how he explained it was really awesome. And then the second thing he said was the having to do just with the electromagnetic field of the heart, mm-hmm. and how that is what extends out the farthest. So Alyse, when you do energy work on someone, what kinds of things are you picking up on?
It's a good question. I use different techniques. I use sometimes a pendulum, but most of the time I just use my hands and my intuition, and I do a scan of the body. And what I'll feel is normally areas that are either depleted or overactive or sticky. Stuck is one of the things that I mm-hmm. feel. Either it's like an emotion that's been trapped there, or some type of trauma response that has kind of frozen something where it's not flowing the way that it needs to. Mm-hmm. And I feel that sometimes in the organ systems of the body. I guess that's some type of a medical intuitive type of scan that I do. I don't diagnose, mm-hmm. obviously, but mm-hmm. That's more, I guess I'd say, a depletion, an overactivity, or a stickiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that I feel very similar things. Sometimes I'll describe it as like a density mm-hmm. in a particular part of the body. Do you ever get then, so like of course, like you mentioned, we don't diagnose, right? We're picking up on areas of the body or perhaps the chakras. Do you ever get a sense of what, like an emotion or something associated
For sure.
with it?
For sure. A lot of times I would say probably all the time there's an emotion associated with it. I was going to say sometimes I can't think of any time that it's not an emotion attached to it. And I know you and I, as like part of our Psychic Friends Network, as I like to call it, will use each other and be like, why is my eye twitching like this? Or why am I getting these like phantom smells? And there's always some story that your body can tell you about it. If you want to talk about that later, but that's another technique that you can ask your body, like what's going on, or ask that particular sensation that you're feeling. But yeah, I totally lost my train of thought with that.
So the reason
feeling emotions.
Right. Feeling emotions. So the reason why I was asking is because, especially if you do see a seasoned healer, right? Because usually over time, when we work on a number of people, the way that each healer receives information is slightly different, right? Can be done in similar ways, but the information might be slightly different because of the meaning of what a particular body part or pain or something in the person's body will tell the healer. And usually I know for myself, when I do pick up on an emotion like anger, or or sadness or grief, a sense of loss, like those are things that can kind of come to mind right away in a particular part of the body. That's what helps me to figure out what questions to ask. Because sometimes when a person comes in, let's say, I'm just having this pain or I'm just having this anxiety, and sometimes people, well, I shouldn't say sometimes, oftentimes, because a person's been dealing with something for so long, they get really disconnected from their body. I find that to be so common that it's kind of like, okay, we need you to get acquainted again with yourself and the messages that you're receiving. So that's usually what prompts me to ask. Like one time, and you can tell me if this happens to you too. Sometimes I'll get like 3 clients in a row and it's clustered and they tend to have the same issue. Going on. It's really bizarre. So
it is. It's really interesting.
So one time I'm working on a client and then she had like a pain in her right hip. And I don't know why, but it was like, do you have any anger towards your dad? Do you need to forgive your father? And she was like, how did you know that? And it's just kind of one of those things where I'm like, well, this is where I'm feeling it. And she actually had a pain right around that area. So, right side signifies masculine. For whatever reason, I got father and anger. Hips are about being able to pivot and flexibility. So that's why that's why I asked the question that I did. Didn't quite know why, but like when working with energy and the physical body, the healer, especially like I said, a more seasoned healer, if they've been doing it for a while, has this repertoire of knowledge of like what could be going on with a particular person, which can prompt them to help you with the awareness, because healing on all levels is not just the physical, right? We know it's the mental and emotional. Right. So that's why I was asking, because it's like, it's one of these things where I appreciate working with energy, because that's the bridge between the mind and body connection that everyone has heard about for however many years now. But to actually implement that and understand it, you have to understand that it's, working in energy is not necessarily about like popping the pill, getting the quick fix. Right?
Nope. And as a massage therapist and as a nurse that you are, we're not saying that there aren't times that you need medication or surgeries or anything like that. But as your first go-to to really check in with yourself and see what could possibly be an emotional or energetic association with what's going on. And that's another one of my first associations was Louise Hay's Heal Your Body book.
Love it.
Oh
I
my
use
gosh.
it. Hmm.
Yes. I mean, something that always stands out in my head is like UTIs when you're pissed off. Like some things are so literal like that. Um, and for the last year, I've had my clients come in at neck, shoulder, all like everybody. And it's for feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders. You feel like you're unsupported. Sometimes if you have a back problem, because that's your backbone is your support. So if you're feeling unsupported in life, your back could bother you. So
Hmm.
these are your body is telling you something. Anything that's like a dysfunction or a disease in your body is a message for you. So we can help you interpret. I love how you talked about the repertoire. I think I talk about that in our class too, Rosalyn, about like
Yes.
building your like symbolic dictionary for yourself, because everybody is going to be different. Your diagnosis for feeling anger in the hip is going to be different from
Hmm.
mine, because all of us as human beings are going to see things through our particular filters too.
Hmm.
That's why it's very important to anybody that's watching and looking for somebody that's an energy healer to find somebody that is really clear and clean. Because if you go to somebody that has maybe a higher density, as you
Yeah.
said, a heavier energy, that's maybe more of a paranoid person, they might say, I feel like there's a curse on you, or I feel like,
Hmm.
somebody's put something bad on you. You will find those people, but those aren't people that are going to actually help you. They might just be looking to actually try to make themselves feel better or to make a buck. Really look into, get referrals, and try people out. Maybe Rosalyn's energy is better suited for you than mine. That's why we're all individual, and it might shift and change. I might be doing great with Rosalyn for a year and a half and then need to switch to somebody else, or
Hmm.
to use a bunch of different people in
Yeah.
connection. So really, cue in with yourself and say what is best for me in this, and who's
Hmm.
the healings are best for me too.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll go to who you resonate with,
Right.
and resonance can change, right? It's kind of, especially like even in the world of coaching and things like that.
Yep.
You can learn something with one person, but when you kind of get to a place where it's like, okay, what's the next thing? So it's kind of like with me. I had, several different spiritual teachers, and they all helped me get to a certain place. And then I happened to meet, the next one, and then I worked with that person for a while, and then on to the next, right? And it's just building upon it. All it really is building upon what you've already learned, or
Right.
in this case, if you're the client, your own personal growth. So
Right.
that's, so there's all qualms about that. Like if someone's really just trying to keep you hold on to you, then then you've got someone who's probably energetically courting to you, and
Yeah.
and you could release that. We could teach you how to do that.
This just
Yeah.
came into my head too when you were talking about that, and I was thinking about reading books. Like you wouldn't just read one book and be like, okay, I read now, and never read another book. It's like
Hmm.
you want to experience, you want to grow, you want to learn, you want to keep moving things on. So if you stay with the same practitioner for life, you're going to stay in the same place.
Hmm. Right. And so one thing that I learned too when it comes to that is that when you're working with someone, and let's say you're working with a healer who also is teaching you different things. I know for myself that I do that. I know that you do that too. um, that the person who you're working with, you expand and grow into into a state that's very similar in the healer's consciousness. So whatever that person is actually teaching you, or showing you how to heal yourself, because by the way, that's also what healers do, is we teach you how to also look at yourself so you can also self heal. That what you learn and what you gravitate and move into is similar to that state of consciousness for the person that you're working with. So that's why when you get to that point where it's like you've gotten everything that you could, move on. I tell that to all my students, all my clients. I'm like, if you want to work with somebody else besides me, or read stuff or watch stuff from other people, go for it. I'm not the end all be all. Right? So you want to find someone who's going to allow you to be like your freedom through your journey when you're working with a healer too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And we're always learning too. I know
Always.
you and I are always like wanting to take the next course. We just did this energy clearing course.
Mm-hmm.
We love to do that. So even if you've worked with us before, check in with us in a couple of months, and we'll have more tools in our toolbox.
Exactly. So yeah. So what do you think about then moving into the future with energy work? Like, what do you see? Why? And maybe we can even talk about it in the context of everything that's happening right now, because I know that I've certainly have had an uptick in clients just with everything that's happening. Yeah. So what do you think is in terms of like the future of energy work and energy medicine?
I feel like that is the future, period. Yes, we'll continue to discover new plant medicines. I believe that we're going to go back to the basics, basically. I believe that we're going to find more things from Mother Earth that can help us, opening more up to plant medicine, not just popping pills, and different, more natural ways of healing. Just like in ancient times, you went to the medicine man or the shaman or the medicine woman. I do believe there's going to be a backlash on like what's become traditional Western medicine, because there's a limitation. And what we've been seeing with even this pandemic is that big pharma does not have our best interest in mind. And I'm waiting for us to be shut up.
We're okay.
Yeah. But there are people that are healers and there's some people that don't even charge for their healing. They just want to help. And I also know that you and I both believe that there's a huge consciousness shift that is happening, that has happened, that is going to continue to happen, where people are expanding into that 5D reality, where they're seeing that what is happening in this physical world is only a small piece of our reality and our existence. So I believe that moving into those higher vibrational realms, energy healing is just a no-brainer to go along with that and to increase the vibration. And also, you talked about it the other day, the different lights that you saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've talked about that with our friend Anu too. Is like, we want to bridge, we want to make everybody united. We want to bring together people for the best and highest good, not just for ourselves, but for the collective. Exactly. This isn't about me, you. This is about us. And if we don't move together as a collective going into the future, we're doomed. So I choose not to go to that doom. I choose to go to those lights that you saw, and the connection and the unity and the raising of the collective vibration.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's so beautifully said. That like makes me a little bit emotional because I totally believe the same. So it's interesting. It's such a dichotomy where I stand, as a nurse and also energy healing, because there's value in the knowledge of anatomy and physiology and how the body responds to different treatments. But the thing is, over the years, people have been, even asking me like over the phone, is there anything else that I can do? Is there any other alternative? A lot of people are looking for things outside of what is traditionally given. And again, going back to what you said, it's not that we don't say don't go to the doctor or anything. That's not it. But that's also just one piece of all the different things that could be done to actually fully heal and not have things either show up again or to completely change your biology. I've seen that in so many people. I've experienced it myself, of you could call it a miraculous healing just through meditation alone. Like I had 9 years of a female condition. And after meditating daily for like an hour, 15 minutes for 5 to 6 months, it disappeared.
Amazing.
Never came back again. And it was not even on my radar. I just wanted to heal depression and anxiety. I've had a client who had breast cancer for the second time, metastasis the second time. And she came to me, she was like, I don't even know why I need to see you, but I need to see you. And then that's when I taught her about energy, and she decided to completely change her life. Now, again, I know that probably sounds drastic, but that was what she needed to do for her healing, because she didn't want to identify herself as someone who was sick. When you change your energy, essentially you start to change who you are, your state of being.
Yeah.
Because either you're going to identify with being a sick person, or you're going to identify with being a healed person who's completely vibrant and healthy. And so she completely, her CAT scans, the last time she told me, because she gets them done repeatedly, everything's completely clear. Not even anything in the bone anymore. It was
amazing.
it just brought me to tears. Like she's, I tell her how much she inspires me, because I've never had to deal with something like that.
Amazing.
Right. But that's just to show you what is possible when working with your energy. And we can heal in ways that we were never taught to believe in. And that's why I say, when you do energy work, it's an experience. And when you experience it, you never forget it. And that's, and then you go from there, and then you just continue to create your life. So I love it. I love the work. I do agree with you that it's the future.
Yeah.
I find it interesting. Have you noticed on social media more and more people using the word energy?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I find
energy, consciousness. It's it's like we're living in a really exciting time for this. I'm very honored to be alive during this time, because I feel like we're seeing some really incredible things happen.
I totally agree with you. I just find it interesting. I bring that up because I started noticing people who aren't even necessarily energy healers, but they're using these words, right? And I'm just like, it's filtering through, that higher vibration. So remember, higher vibration is eventually what everything else syncs up to. Just like in an energy healing session, one-on-one, this is what's happening, I believe, globally, where we have all these people who are working on themselves. They're focused on a better future. They're focused on raising consciousness and becoming more aware and becoming more clear. And as that happens, then it starts to have this ripple effect on other people. And they, it's interesting. It's like when I talk with clients I've had for a while, the language is different. How they show up is different. How they speak up is different. And that's exactly what we need right now.
Yeah. We are, every one of you watching is holding a vibration for the future. So, and I think this could be our next video, but talking about how there are infinite possibilities for the future, and everything that we do and say can create that. We can go to a doomsday scenario where, everything is terrible and we deplete the earth and it ends up busting into flames or something, or where we can create this future of consciousness and of caring for the earth and of being together and being connected and continuing to raise the vibration for all of us and for our children and grandchildren and their children, etc., and not just be all about me, like I feel like most of our culture tries to teach us to be.
Yeah. Nope. I totally agree with you.
Next video.
That would be a great topic. I would love to discuss that with you. So stay tuned for that one, guys.
Yes.
But I do believe in the future, things will be more, if you haven't already, you are going to be hearing more about just energy, using the word energy, your energy. People have been saying this for a while, like vibes, right? They always talk about vibes. That's what they're talking about, vibrational frequency. And so if you haven't learned about energy yet, you will, because it's going to be, it's just going to be part of how we end up living.
Yep.
You know, I remember one energy healing class that I took, the teacher said that like his vision for the future is that it's not even necessarily going to be termed energy healing anymore. It's just going to be living. We're going to be living through the understanding.
It's going to be incorporated into our lives.
It's just going to be a part of what we do. And so, you know, a good energy healer is going to begin to teach you different ways of being able to become aware of your own energy, how to use it, how to think about it. And because I know that when I talk with my clients, that's my whole point, is I want you to look at everything in terms of energy, because energy is information. Everything that Alyse and I have been talking about is like the information that we're getting, right, from the client, and what they can do then to change the energy to produce a healing effect, whether that's mental, emotional, or physical, which they all tend to be all three, to be honest.
They're all related, for sure.
They're all related, right? So yeah, it's going to be, it is the future. We're going to be stepping into it, whether or not you recognize that now, but that it's going to be in everything. And one thing, so by the way, one thing that I never thought about was that even now, if you take a medicine from your doctor, you're changing the energy of your body just even using the medication. So whether that produces a positive effect or negative effect, like side effects and adverse reactions or allergic reactions, or whether it produces the healing that you were anticipating, you are changing the energy that the cells of your body are going to use. They assimilate that medication, and then they're going, what was I supposed to do with this?
Totally.
Right? So there's an energetic effect that's happening regardless of if you're doing pure energy healing, working with the healer, taking medicine, eating food, exercising, anything that you're doing, you're consuming, even mentally, is going to affect the cells of your body.
Yep.
So look at everything in terms of energy. How is this actually helping me? Is this giving me more energy? Is it making my energy better? Or is it depleting it?
Totally.
So, yeah, just thought about that. So anything else that you wanted to add?
I mean, I could talk
for
hours and hours and hours, you know that, but I do have to go. I have a big thing coming up on Sunday. I have so much to do.
That's right. You're
working from home. Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you're local, excited about that. So where again in New York are you?
White Plains. We're about 30 minutes from Manhattan.
Okay. So if you're in her area, she has an October fair coming up at the boutique. So there's lots of stuff to check out at her place. You probably see, well, on Insta, you don't see the banner that I have up on Facebook and YouTube, but her store, Healing Collective NY for New York. She's got her amazing crystals. They're all very, very unique. Okay, so check out her stuff. She has a lot of other items and stuff there too.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's the Healing Collective NY on social media, Facebook, Instagram, also the healingcollectiveny.com for the website, and on Etsy, Healing Collective NY. So all them things.
Yeah, so check her out and keep up to date on our social media. When you'll see us again, we'll be doing more conversations in the future.
Yes, we will. Lots more to talk about.
So thank you so much for
Thank you. Thanks,
watching.
Rosalyn. You guys have a beautiful day.
Okay. Bye-bye now.